I'm not in the mood. I don't know what's with this place, but every time I go to the restroom, the person in front of me is taking 10 minutes to piss.
Try being a girl.
Literally. I'm going to read some poetry. I seemed to have always been the same age. Then I looked in the mirror and saw a tired and devious old man gazing warily back at me. An old man sitting alone in a room masturbating over a memory. Fantasizing about women who have forgotten about me and brooding over deliberately missed opportunities. A shadow of my former shadow slowly turning grey. Unfortunately, nobody noticed that I never went away. I think it was Elvis Presley who remarked that you cannot be sad and be on stage at the same time. Apparently, he never performed at Zebulon on a Monday night. I'm sorry I'm not a real poet, I was never in a band. How are we doing for time? I'd like to dedicate this next piece to David Berman.
Yeah.
When my first book came out many years ago, I sent him a copy of it, and he never wrote back to me. So I stopped listening to his music. But in the wake of his untimely demise a few weeks ago, I pulled out a few of his old records and listened to him, and he's actually a pretty good writer for a musician. If he had to survive on the merits of his poetic work, he would be languishing in abject obscurity along with the rest of us. But he put his words to music, and that was a very smart move, and he is now enshrined forever as an eternal genius. In any event, one cannot complain. All art aspires constantly to the condition of music. It has an almost unfair advantage owing to its non-representational and transcendent qualities, and we must defer to it. No, that was the last one. I could have been ahead of my time, I could have been me. Nevertheless, I proceed directionlessly, hoping to profit from useless, hard-won knowledge and brooding about mortality. About how inconvenient it is that one has to die in order to receive posthumous acclaim. And worse still, that one has to have accomplished something. I must put that on my to-do list. But what are you going to do when the life that you passively awaited has slowly passed you by? You can't hate something because you made it unattainable, and you can't resent other people because you let yourself down, but you can try. Yes, we lost a good man, and the outpouring of grief that accompanied his death was quite staggering in itself. Nobody was more upset than me. But once the initial surge of grief subsided, my main takeaway from this tragedy was that if I died, my death would not receive a fraction, not a thousandth of the attention that his death received. So there doesn't seem much point in killing myself anymore. At least something positive came out of that tragedy. But anyway, enough about me. You watch other people losing it and you wonder if it can happen to you. You swagger in vain against extinction, but the efforts of those who wrest crumbs from history won't be enough to ensure your immortality. You might have done more had others done less. Had you not been thwarted by the unsightly spectacle of other people's success. You were guilty of the conceit of the refusal to compete. Good enough not to have to prove it. And you resent those who wisely used the time and opportunities you abused. But at least you failed deliberately, or so you insist. You watch other people losing it and you wonder if it could happen to you. It can. Perhaps it already has. The real reason I didn't become a musician is it would have been too easy. I didn't realize at the time when it would have been useful to realize such things, that anybody with even the most rudimentary grasp of rhythm or melody could master the bass guitar.
It's not too late.
Well, it is actually, but thank you. But to move on to less melancholy matters. I am the one, waiting for the one. I have never entered a room without hoping that the one I am waiting for might be found there. Despite decades of disappointment, I still look for it in every face, looking for somebody to become that place, where everything that falls apart falls into place. But if I found it, I wouldn't want it. For as long as the possibility of somebody else wanting me exists, I will always want somebody else. And I realize now that if she ever does arrive, it will not be in the prime of either of our lives, at a cocktail party with a drink in her hand, but that she is more likely to arrive holding a bedpan, as I am breathing my last in a hospital bed. Only then, with restlessness and hope extinguished, and all other possibilities exhausted, will I finally be ready for the one. I was never in a band, but my name has been romantically linked with some famous singers over the years. And I'd like to dedicate this next poem to Sade. We were romantically involved many years ago, and it's actually, and she wrote a song about me.
Sweetest taboo!
Sweetest tattoo!
No, that song's about anal sex, everyone knows that. No, this song she wrote about me is called Smooth Operator. It's actually true. If you consult Sade's Wikipedia entry, it states very clearly for several years during the 1980s, Sade squatted. No, sorry, for several months during the 1980s, Sade squatted in Tottenham. So if you flip one vowel, it's quite revealing, isn't it? Anyway, she wrote a song about me, so I wrote a poem about her, and it goes something like this. Yes, my dear, we have each other. That's what worries me. I wouldn't focus on your flaws if you did not call yourself mine. You are the living embodiment of my failure, another symptom of my decline. But darling, please don't let our love ever die, because if it does, I'll be shattered by all the time I've wasted keeping it alive. I was going to read another poem now, but I can't be bothered. Let's skip a bit. Let's change the subject. One of my proudest achievements occurred recently when a few lines of mine were used in a prominent online grammar blog to illustrate the correct usage of a certain phrase. The phrase in question was, "in this day and age." I wouldn't have thought, you wouldn't think it would cause much confusion, but apparently it does. And this is the context in which it was used. To do nothing in this day and age, when so much pointless work is being produced, could almost be considered an achievement. It all compares most unfavorably with my own imaginary body of work. Well, I'm going to read the other one anyway, just the fuck off it. This is a very romantic poem. They're all romantic, but this one is especially romantic. Hang on. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but I wish I'd never met you. This union has neutered, infantilized, and almost smothered the life out of me. It has consigned me to an incomplete and primordial state. And if I cannot summon the strength to end it, it will be the end of me. When we met, I felt my life close around me like a soft shell. You have inspired me to shut myself down in so many ways. You have killed my sense of wonder, and I love you for it. This lifeline of numbness has sustained my descent, but it cannot soften the impact. It has weakened me, but now without it I'd be weaker. It's over, but we're still together. And I wear the permanent frown of the trapped man, gritting his remaining teeth in resignation and sinking them into a false sense of comfort. Broke, bitter and alone. What more could I possibly ask for? I have failed at last, beyond my wildest expectations. I don't understand why I'm still not satisfied. It's not over yet. Let's go out in a blaze of glory. I don't understand people who claim that they have no regrets in life, who insist, out of gratitude, pride, or ignorance, that they wouldn't want to change a thing. My life is a raging river of regret, flowing into a sea of shame. There is very little I wouldn't do differently if given a second chance. I always knew I'd end up feeling this way. It was a setup. Regret was something I had to earn. Hang on. Regret was something I worked towards. Something I felt I had to earn. And now, naturally, I regret that too. All right, you've drained me of my vital juices. Those precious few remaining drops. All right, thank you.
That was John Tottenham, ladies and gentlemen. So,